This will be the first of 3 videos about why I left Islam. Some of you might be wondering, well, what took you so long? Well, I actually had to dig deep and remember what it was that made me stop believing things. At least believing things that didn't have good evidence. Like, I had to sit and question why we believe anything. Like, what is it that makes us believe something rather than accepting a claim based on what proof is being provided? When I say I believe you, does that mean that I trust you because of the good information that you've given me throughout the years and it's outweighed the bad information? Or is it just because of the proof that you've given? Well, I truly think that we use appeals to authority and emotions and our own credulity because we're trained to do them by the people we love. That certainly was the case with Islam. I was taught that there was a God way up high somewhere that was sort of a spirit kind of thing, something that was inherent in nature, but comes in the person of one thing or another. I was told about Prophet Muhammad, and I was told that you needed to pray 5 times a day, and you need to fast during Ramadan, and all those things. Typical boilerplate Islam stuff, except without the madrasa. As a matter of fact, to be honest, a lot of what I learned came directly from recordings and books and just what my grandmother and mother told me. I didn't really know what different denominations there were. I just knew that there was my idea of what Islam was, and that must be true. Well, maybe that's not accurate. I don't know if I believed that it was true. See, when I was taught this stuff as a kid, I was sort of ambivalent to all the truth claims. I just thought to myself, I don't know whether or not these things are impossible. I don't know if these things can't happen. So I should just test these claims by living in accordance to all the rules. And I didn't think all those words. I basically figured it was better to err on the side of caution, and if something is proven to me, then great. If not, then I'll just keep on testing. I suspect that there are others who accept religion in the same manner, a sort of a la carte version of their religion. But how does one test the claim? I mean, knowledge is what happens when you recall a situation that is similar to the current one, and you predictively use that information. You can't do that with religion. Anytime a horrible thing happens, or a prayer seems to be totally ignored, there's always a way to blame it on the person and not the spiritual being. You pray, you check what happens. You pray and check what happens. And if the prayer isn't answered, there's no way to tell if somebody was just doing it wrong. So you have to repeat it over and over and over. And just to keep yourself sane, you give yourself the confirmation bias to feel that enough prayers were answered to come up with some kind of conclusion. You think, yay, that prayer didn't fail that time, so I must have done something right, so I'll just keep doing it that way. But what if you did keep praying and devoting and the prayers got answered? This is something that bothered me. It bothered me particularly during adolescence. I thought, well, what if these prayers are just being answered by some evil creature? Or some alien who just mischievously sprinkles some good luck on you? Or maybe it's a test to see whether or not you keep doing the wrong thing. Maybe you're doing something that the Bible or the Qur'an or whatever book you got going on, maybe you're doing something that the book isn't telling you should be doing, and maybe God is testing you to see if you keep on doing it the wrong way. And that later on down the line there'll be some horrible big punishment to tell you, oh, you have failed the test. What makes you think that the good things you receive through prayer are the result of the benevolence of the deity? Or a benevolent deity at all? Aren't some misfortunes supposed to be part of the divine plan? What if your good fortune is part of some deity's divine plan, but it's for the malevolence towards somebody else? How would you know the difference? And how would you be able to judge it morally? I especially thought this when I thought about some friends of mine who were Jewish or Christian, they seemed to be doing well. They weren't living in poverty. They weren't struggling to try to figure out how to pay for their student lunch. Not all of them had an abusive family member that did awful things. Not my mom. But somehow, even though their religion must be wrong, they seem to be doing okay. They got a nice house, they go to school, mom, dad picks them up. Are they really headed for hell just because they believe something different from what I believe? What if the bad things are happening to my family because we're all doing it wrong? Again, how would you know the difference? See, I think that we use appeals to authority and emotions because we're told at a young age to eschew all logic. Otherwise, we end up in hell or some other awful idea. So if you're getting a grounding or a spanking or getting your toys taken away or something, that's nothing compared to being burned in torment for eternity. So the children get so scared that it's difficult to believe that every loved one in your life is unwittingly abusing you with these delusions. I mean, how can a kid wrap their head around that idea that the parent could be doing everything wrong? So they have to try to guess that they're doing it right. So the kids end up with this double faith. They've got a parent or some other guardian that hopes teaching this religion isn't some abusive delusion. And then that gives the parent license to hope that those individual claims in the religion are also true. It's this mental prison inside of a fortress. I don't know. I think maybe it's this kind of thing that primes us at an early age to be desperate to accept the authorities when they speak to us. Maybe that's what's happening in this country. And maybe that's what bothers me so much about the educational system and generational problems and all the things I complained about in the other videos. It's the fact that it doesn't have to happen. It's the product of bad thinking. Thinking that we are told we have to have, otherwise horrible things will happen. We'll be separated from parents because they'll be doing the right thing and we're doing the wrong thing. We didn't dot that I and cross that T. How do you know the difference? So when I got to college, I didn't know what to think. I was away from the family members and the crazy books and everything, and I thought, well, wait, I should really look into these books. I got to a religious college that will remain nameless, and I took a year of religious studies classes. The only textbook in that entire classroom was the Bible. That was it. And we read the thing. We were reading it cover to cover. That was our job. There were some sections I had to skip. I just couldn't deal with some of the craziness. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I'm sitting here reading 4 different versions of this Jesus person. They all seem different to me. Didn't I already read this? Why is this different in this part and the other part? And the explanation was this. Well, you gotta have faith. I gotta have faith. Faith in what? I mean, 9/11 had already happened. I was trying to reconcile why a deity would teach 3 different versions of the same Yahweh figure just so that they have to learn 4 different versions of the son of that Yahweh figure of one of the 3 versions. And then, if you think of things in the wrong way, in any of those 3 cases, or any of the 4 Gospels, or any of the ideas like transubstantiation or baptism, or whether it's faith versus works, whether it's this versus that, I thought, what's the point of faith? I gotta know whether or not this stuff is true. So little by little, I thought, maybe none of it's true. Now, I conveniently glossed over 9/11. I thought to myself, well, you know what, maybe it's a lot of metaphors. You get to that place. A lot of atheists have this story. You know, I'll just take some of these things. I don't know if my parents really understood this, and I don't know if my grandma knows that, and I don't know if so-and-so told this correctly. So I'm just going to take those things with a grain of salt and just stick to the core values. And I couldn't figure out which values were supposed to be core. I mean, when you look at the book of Luke and you see Jesus talking about a parable where you should bring the unbelievers to my feet and destroy them, that doesn't sound particularly turn the other cheeky to me. Which parable and which metaphor am I supposed to use to live my life? And how can I say that these people who could possibly be right, who knows? How can I say that those people who flew planes into buildings were wrong if they did everything by the book? So I thought, well, if that's possibly correct within the sphere of Islam, then I don't want any part of it. Why would I want it? And I started roaming around college with this Arabic name, and every once in a while some nice Arab girl would come over and try to convert me, or some guy would come over trying to explain why I should go to the mosque. It just got annoying. I thought, what's the point? I started creating my own God after a while. It was sort of a Spinoza knockoff where we return to it as rain returns to the sky when it evaporates. I had to figure out some way to make it halfway reasonable that all this God stuff people were telling me could even be possibly accurate. And it never washed. It just never did. I got into more arguments than I did concessions. I got into more confusion than I did revelation of any kind. And I just had to stop. It was too much. Faith was the problem. And I realized that people misuse the word belief. If belief can be used in any sense that makes any sense, it has to be the form by which you accept a claim based on what evidence is provided through objective, multiple perspectives, as objective as we can be, at least. That's the only way that you get to belief in any halfway useful way. But then that's just knowledge. The word belief becomes redundant. I wonder why we believe anything. I wonder if we believe anything. Maybe all we have is the knowledge. And maybe the only thing that we're meant to do is destroy faith.